Hello, my name is Mota, and today I'll be reading some poems. But before, I would like to thank Anteism, Meta Press, and Ashley for having me and for putting this event together. Yesterday, I was listening to the live, and I was just stoked to be part of this event. So, without further ado, I'll read my first poem. It's called Drinking Light, and it was written after a conversation with a physicist called Felix and watching Kurosawa's Journey to the Shore. Drinking light. I rightfully poisoned part of the projections I had. From how destruction spreaded, projections must be liquid. Liquid is not about wetness, but about particles' behavior, a physicist told me in a conversation about liquid light. If light behaved as liquid and we poured it in a glass, we would not be able to see its brightness. If not a wave, if not spreading, light doesn't reach the eye. I'm oversimplifying it. Kurosawa oversimplified it, and we're both talking about grieving. But again, projections must be liquid. We can predict its particle's position. A particle of projection like self-image or someone you love, you predict their behavior in imagined futures. Projections take the shape of the container you put them in. In pessimism, I sang to myself breakup lullabies. Later, I felt ashamed of my own mediocrity in looking for ways not to be affected. In optimism, I allowed myself to design futures with my lover. Later, I watched the abyss between our desires. In a liquid state, particles move around. In some cases, this means spreadage decay. When projections rot, the chasm between worldview and reality give me vertigo. And 4 billion years from now, the Milky Way will collide with the Andromeda Galaxy. But I think that will be quite a trivial event. It won't be the end of the universe, lectured the ghost of Kurosawa's movie. And so, I lecture myself. Her taste. I pour myself some whiskey, but in my mouth the liquid becomes pepperminty. Won't you apologize? I miss the bitterness, and she can tell. She can tell I will not ask for forgiveness, and she's changed, since forgiveness is for whom gives. I'm in a disappearing process without due date, she tells me. If we had a court members, they would proclaim, it's a disgrace, but we're alone, so she has to ensure herself that my every breath feels like a trial. She transforms my drink in tea. She doesn't allow me to flee her questions. Won't you apologize? The dust against the sun tells me it's always winter inside the house. Won't you apologize? I sip the last drops from the glass. Outside, the trucks recall each hole of the street. I want to see every lack of cement, but when I stand, my body is dizzy, and my mouth tastes like peppermint. I sit again. Isn't it time for you to leave? Without due date. Some things go both ways, but it doesn't mean that they are even. She's the sun in a foggy day, burning without admonishment and without due date. What a lovely disgrace to see you here. The next couple of poems were written for a project on belonging and running away, and they are inspired by interviews. The first one is called Lack of Yellow. I'm always waiting at the border of disapproval. I feel childish asking for countless permissions. It's the price of living under guidelines written in a language I'm not fluent. I meet bodies not constrained by handshakes for a cup of coffee, a 5 to 7, but then, without realizing, it becomes everyday, excessive. I ask to live in the embassy, a virtual space I'll call homeland. Sun rays fail to reach this part of the globe. On weekends, I lay with my lover until late. I feel foreign to his lukewarm body and slippery hands. He tells me I'm not doing enough to assimilate. I say I escape to deceive myself from placement. Outsiders understand my fear of performance better. I'm less vulnerable when I sit among them. To remember home, we ran through Alps naming ipe colors and fruits the snow could never taste. Photo autotroph. Red lichens, blue hydrangeas, philodendrons. A bubble grows on my right hand, and at the chant of cicadas, my skin too smells like wet earth. In the morning, I welcome a mango tree. Her roots settle in sloping rainforest soil, her leaves sheltered under a transparent umbrella. I whisper secrets to her, and we both sunbathe. I wish I could photosynthesize as a fern, and stretch through the air unrolling my tiniest bits. I would never expect someone to grasp at my fronds or clock my unfoldings, but ferns have sorrows, and I freckles. I walk through herbs. Golden rosemary was born in the field without being harvested. It was my lover who told me the field's wildflower is the rosemary never paid rent nor expected remuneration. Scent donated with daintiness. Amongst vegetables, I feel a new type of kindness. There's no sorrow. All death is compost. How simple. We grow where we can. Sand gatherer. I stop in the desert and wait for stars to fall from an unconstellated sky. My eyes, miracle beggars, always hollow and glassy, famished for proof. In which mythology will be my next logic? I was told believing is letting yourself be a fool from a mouth that lisped promises. We can never touch anything, can we? We're both too much of agitated particles. I need no telescope. The ground speaks when a meteor arrives. Time scratches my throat. Distance is a reality not shared. The last one is a love poem and it's called Always. Always. It feels like I'm always in the bubbly place where the wave hits the beach. He looked at me worried. To him, beach means sand sticking to the skin, a body of water he cannot trust, a displeased father. My metaphor didn't resonate with him. He asked me to cut it open. I feel it on my body. Sand rises by the intense stream and then it tries to follow gravity. Tiny bubbles heads up, turbid water. But the sun is too loud outside to leave you feeling dim. I don't mean shore. I mean the place where two waves encounter in the sea when approaching the shore. The place where streams hit themselves and twirl my floating body. My body has no power of choice. Growing up, my grandma used to scream at me to leave the place where waves break. The place where you have no control. I heard myself. I saw his face. My description sounded like a premeditated disaster. I talked a bit about momentum, but something was missed in my explanation. We ended the discussion with me frustrated with his distance from my language and mythologies, and him frustrated with the idea of a lover who saw her love as a danger. I found my words over and over. What I missed was stressing the always. It is this temporal marker that allows the pleasure of presence. This always means the repetition of 2 seconds of intensity, the repetition of your lungs with enough air, the repetition of being taken by a body so much larger, a body that contains in itself contradicting movements. Thank you.